one of the organized crime groups in New York who didn't need to model themselves after the mob is the Chinese, who for years virtually operated unnoticed while controlling Chinatown. They used street gangs to carry out their dirty work while teaching them respect and discipline at the same time. Oddly enough, in most instances, the Chinese operated literally blocks away from Little Italy and the mob, but managed to do their own thing and minded their business. One of the more known names is Benny Ong, who was called Uncle Seven, as he was the seventh born of the 9 sons his parents had. Benny Ong was the head of the Hip Sing Tong and would become the figurehead for all of the New York Tongs and labeled the godfather of Chinatown. In 1991, he was subpoenaed to testify before a Washington, D.C. subcommittee, but due to health reasons, he was permitted to give his disposition at 26 Federal Plaza in New York City. This took place on November 14, 1991, where he was questioned by Chief Counsel Daniel Rinzel. So let's see what answers Benny Ong had to offer. Could you please state your full name, please? I cannot hear nothing. Are you going to put in your hearing aid? And can you hear me now, Mr. Ong? Yes. Could you state your full name, please, sir? My name, Benny Ong. Are you also known as Kaisui Yang? Yes, also Kaisui Yang. Are you also sometimes called Uncle Seven? They call me Uncle Seven. Where is your residence? Where do you live? I live in 8 Pell Street. What is your date of birth? September 4. In what year? 1907. Where were you born? China. Any particular province or community? Canton. What is your citizenship, sir? Still in China. Are you a permanent alien then in the United States? Yes. I came to this country in 1923. Your counsel indicated to us that your health prevents you from traveling to Washington, D.C. Can you tell us what some of your health problems are, sir? I got 2 operations. 2 operations? Yes. What kind of operations? Something about a male operation? Yes. When did you have those operations? Benny Ong was represented that day by Barry Slotnick, who interjected. I respectfully indicate that we have supplied letters from the doctor that indicate the operation and the prior circumstance. If the committee would like them, we would be happy to provide them. I appreciate that, but part of the inquiry is the current state of health of the witness, and I think it's a legitimate area to inquire. Have you any other health problems other than your recent operations? Some. I don't know. I don't understand you. You don't understand? What don't you understand? You don't understand the question? Yes, I understand the question, meaning they affect my heart, your heart, and what else? My leg, everything. When is the last time you traveled out of New York City? I got used the Fifth Amendment. You're refusing to answer the question on the grounds of the Fifth Amendment? Is that true? Yes. Is it true you were convicted of a homicide sometime in the 1930s? 1935. Amendment. What is your answer, sir? I'm sorry. Fifth Amendment. You're invoking your privilege under the Fifth Amendment? You know all of it in record. In 1935, Benny Ong and other Hop Sing members stuck up a gambling spot where shots were fired and 1 person was killed. Supposedly, Benny Ong took the weight for a person much higher in the organization and was convicted of murder in the 2nd degree and served 17 years from 1935 to 1952. Well, I'm asking you some questions, and we are seeking answers. If you wish to answer, we would be happy to receive your answers. Is it true you were convicted of 2nd-degree murder? Excuse me. Is it true you were convicted in the 1970s for bribery? Invoke the Fifth Amendment again. In 1977, Benny Ong was caught on a wiretap talking about making payments that he made to an immigration official. He was convicted and again went to prison from 1977 to 1978. What role did you play in the Hop Sing Association, sir? Fifth Amendment 2. Are you not advisor for life to the Hop Sing Association? Fifth Amendment 2. Benny Ong was the secretary and then became advisor-in-chief for life of the Hop Sing Tong. Traditionally, Tong in Chinese is defined as an assembly or a gathering hall, but for Chinese organized crime, it's a secret society. Do you exercise any authority or control over Hop Sing Association? Fifth Amendment. Have you ever heard of a street gang called the Flying Dragons? Fifth Amendment again. Do you exercise any influence or control over the Flying Dragons? Fifth Amendment. Benny Ong's godson, Michael Chen, was a leader of the Flying Dragons, which was affiliated to the Hop Sing Tong. On March 13, 1983, Chen was shot and killed while at 15 Pell Street in an office that was the location of Hop Sing's credit union. Did you know a person by the name of Johnny Eng? Fifth Amendment again. Johnny Eng was the former boss of the Flying Dragons and a major narcotics dealer. He was convicted for heroin smuggling in 1992 and sentenced to 24 years. Did you know whether the Flying Dragons are exploitation merchants in Chinatown? Don't know nothing. You don't know anything? You don't know anything about that? Fifth Amendment. Are you aware of an illegal gambling establishment at number 9 Pell Street? Fifth Amendment. The Hop Sing Tong essentially had Pell Street on lockdown. Their headquarters was at 16 Pell. Have you ever received financial benefits from that establishment? Fifth Amendment. I have a chart that was introduced into evidence before the subcommittee in Washington, D.C. on the 6th of November, and I'll have it marked as Exhibit 1. I would ask you to look at that chart, sir, and can you tell me if there's any persons depicted on that chart who you recognize? Fifth Amendment. Do you know a person by the name of Eddie Chan? Fifth Amendment. Eddie Chan ran the On Loon Tong in the late 70s and 80s, where the street gang the Ghost Shadows were affiliated to. Yes, you are much more handsome than that, Mr. Ong. No. Barry Slotnick. Yes, that's an old picture of you. Did you have anything to do with, or do you have any knowledge of, a murder of Peter Wang, also known as Peter Eng, which occurred on March 20th, 1991 in New York City's Chinatown? Fifth Amendment. Peter Wang was the chairman of the An Lun Tang, who was killed on Canal Street on March 20th, 1991. Please remember to like this video if you haven't already. And for anyone who wants to show appreciation for videos like this or help keep this podcast going, you can do so by the Super Thanks icon down below or the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Do you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment rights in response to any further questions that we may have for you today about organized crime activity in New York? Yes. The answer is yes. Barry Slotnick. Yes. Under those circumstances, I think that we can conclude this disposition here today. Following the hearing, Benny Ong would go on to live his life back in Chinatown, where the Hip Sing organization were involved in gambling, extortion, theft, smuggling, prostitution, drugs, and murder. As mentioned, the Flying Dragons were the Hip Sing's enforcers on the street and essentially their farm team. Since the 1950s, Benny Ong took over the organization from his brother Sam and remained in control up until his death on August 6, 1994.